Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm Charlotte, and I'm back with more Quarantine Story Hour, reading aloud from this little book you may have heard of, War and Peace. And as an addendum to what I've been complaining about the last couple of days, about the weight of this book, where the pages are super thick. You can't even see how thin. Like, they're super dense and they're thin pages. It's very dense. I weighed it today. It's about 4 pounds. So I don't know if that's really fair to complain. But 4 pounds is a lot in one hand after like 20 minutes of holding it in like a static position. So I think what I'm saying is I have like wrists of steel after this. But aside from that, what did we have last time? Yesterday was a lot of social banter, a little upset as our interesting man, Pierre, who is kind of the odd man out in the social soiree scene, caused a bit of an upset by vehemently voicing his political opinions, much to the consternation of all the Russian aristocracy who were at this little soiree, Anna Pavlovna's. And a older lady was able to convince Prince Vasily to speak to a general about getting her son a position as a guard or something, like in the National Guard kind of thing. So kind of outside of his usual apathetic zone. But yeah, that's basically the end of it. They're debating the merits of Bonaparte and his beheading of some people and stuff like that. And the French Revolution. Let's see, what else do I got? Today is my good friend Kim's birthday. So happy birthday, Kim. Thought I'd do a special shout out on the channel. She wants everyone to send like dance videos. So that'll come later for her. But, there's a little dance in my seat video with a book. All right, so there's that. Happy birthday! So let's get into it, and hopefully there won't be too much. I anticipate there will be more horrible French. Sorry about that, guys. And the surprise last time was also that they threw in like a sentence of Italian just to keep everyone on their toes. So here we are. These things happen. I might change the time that I do the reading in the next couple days, because right now it's sometime between 3 and 4, and right now it's like 4, so I'm kind of pushing it. I might change it to slightly later in the day, or maybe slightly earlier, like just after a late lunch, just because it's kind of in a weird time when I'm trying to keep myself scheduled and busy, which has been part of keeping myself mentally well during this time. In addition to reading to everyone here on the internets, I am also trying to give myself like a bit of a daily routine, which sometimes interrupting that to have this in the middle is like weird. So we'll see. If anyone has thoughts on that, feel free to drop some comments. Otherwise, we'll just see what we see. But let's get into it, because it looks like it's a short chapter and then a long chapter today. So we might be here for a minute. So buckle up, folks. Let's get ready for some bad foreign language reading in a classic novel. So this is in the book is Volume 1, Part 1, and this would be like chapter or section 5. Having thanked Anna Pavlovna for her charmante soirée, the guests began to leave. Pierre was clumsy. Fat, unusually tall, broad, with enormous red hands, he did not, as they say, know how to enter a salon, and still less, he did not know how to leave one. That is, by saying something especially pleasant at the door. Besides that, he was absent-minded. Getting up, he took a 3-cornered hat with a general's plumage instead of his own, and held on to it, plucking at the feathers, until the general asked him to give it back. But all his absent-mindedness and inability to enter a salon and speak in it were redeemed by his expression of good nature, simplicity, and modesty. Anna Pavlovna turned to him and, with a Christian meekness, expressing forgiveness for his outburst, nodded to him and said, "I hope to see you again, but I also hope that you will change your opinions, my dear Monsieur Pierre," she said. When she said this to him, he made no reply, but only bowed and once more showed everyone his smile, which said nothing except perhaps this: "Opinions are opinions, but you see what a good and nice fellow I am." And everyone, including Anna Pavlovna, involuntarily felt it. Prince Andrei went out to the front hall and, offering his shoulders to the footman who was putting his cloak on him, listened indifferently to his wife's chatter with Prince Hippolyte, who also came out to the front hall. Prince Hippolyte stood beside the pretty pregnant princess and looked at her directly and intently through his lorgnette. "Go in, Annette, you'll catch cold," said the little princess, taking leave of Anna Pavlovna. "C'est arrête," she added softly. Anna Pavlovna had already managed to speak with Lisa about the match she was contriving between Anatoly and the little princess's sister-in-law. "I'm relying on you, my dear friend," Anna Pavlovna said also softly. "You'll write to her and tell me, comme le Pierre envisagera la chose. Au revoir," and she left the front hall. Prince Hippolyte went over to the little princess and, bringing his face down close to hers, began saying something to her in a half-whisper. Two footmen, one the princess's, and the other his, waiting for them to finish talking, stood with shawl and redingote and listened to their French talk, which they could not understand, with such faces as if they understood what was being said but did not want to show it. The princess, as usual, talked smilingly and listened laughingly. "I'm very glad I didn't go to mustache lip pulling upward. All the beautiful society women will be there." "Not all, since you won't be there, not at all," said Prince Hippolyte, laughing joyfully, and snatching the shawl from the footman, even shoving him, he began putting it on the princess. Either from awkwardness or intentionally, no one would have been able to tell, he was a long while lowering his arms, even when the shawl was already put on, and it was as if he was embracing the young woman. Graciously, but still smiling, she withdrew, turned, and looked at her husband. Prince Andrei's eyes were shut, which made him look tired and sleepy. "Are you ready, madame?" he asked his wife, looking past her. Prince Hippolyte hastily put on his redingote, which, in the new style, hung lower than his heels, and tangling himself in it, ran to the porch after the princess, whom the footman was helping into the carriage. "Princesse, au revoir," he cried, his tongue getting as tangled as his feet. The princess, picking up her dress, was settling herself into the darkness of the carriage. Her husband was straightening his sword. Prince Hippolyte, on the pretext of being of service, got in everyone's way. "Excuse me, sir," Prince Andrei, with dry unpleasantness, addressed himself in Russian to Prince Hippolyte, who was standing in his way. "I'll be waiting for you, Pierre," the same voice of Prince Andrei said gently and tenderly. The postilion touched up the horses, and the wheels of the carriage rumbled. Prince Hippolyte laughed fitfully, standing on the porch and waiting for the Viscount, whom he had promised to take home. "Eh bien, mon cher, votre petite princesse est très bien," said the Viscount, getting into the carriage with Hippolyte. "Marche très bien." He kissed the tips of his fingers. "Et tout à fait français." Prince Hippolyte laughed with a snort. "Et savez-vous que vous êtes très belle avec votre petit air innocent?" the Viscount continued. "Je plains le pauvre mari, ce petit officier que se donne des airs de prince régnant." Hippolyte snorted again and said through his laughter, "Et vous disiez que les dames russes me vaillantes, pas les dames françaises, il fait savoir s'y prendre." Pierre, arriving first, went to Prince Andrei's study, being a familiar of the house, and, as was his habit, at once lay down on the sofa, took the first book that caught his eye from the shelf — it was Caesar's Commentaries — and, leaning on his elbow, began reading it from the middle. "What have you done to Mademoiselle Schurrer? She'll be quite ill now," said Prince Andrei, coming into his study and rubbing his small white hands. Pierre swung his whole body so that the sofa creaked, turned his animated face to Prince Andrei, smiled, and waved his hand. "No, that abbé is very interesting, only he has the wrong notion of things. In my opinion, eternal peace is possible, but I don't know how to say it, only it's not through political balance." Prince André was obviously not interested in these abstract conversations. Mon cher, you can't go saying what you think everywhere. Well, so have you finally decided on everything? Are you going to be a house guard or a horse guard or a diplomat? Prince André asked after a moment's silence. Pierre sat up on the sofa with both legs tucked under him. Can you imagine? I still don't know. I don't like either of them. But you must decide on something. Your father's waiting. At the age of 10, Pierre had been sent abroad with an abbé tutor and had remained there until he was 20. When he returned to Moscow, his father dismissed the abbé and said to the young man, Go to Petersburg now, look around, and choose. I'll agree to anything. Here's a letter to Prince Vasily, and here's some money. Write to me about everything. I'll help you in everything. Pierre had been choosing a career for 3 months already and had done nothing. This was the choice that Prince André was talking about with him. Pierre rubbed his forehead. But he must be a mason, he said, meaning the abbé he had seen at the soirée. That's all rubbish, Prince André stopped him again. Better let's talk about business. Have you been to the Horse Guards? No, I haven't, but here's what's come into my mind, and I want to tell you. There's a war now against Napoleon. If it were a war for freedom, I could understand it. I'd be the first to go into military service, but to help England and Austria against the greatest man in the world, is not right. Prince André merely shrugged his shoulders at Pierre's childish talk. He made it look as though he could not reply to such stupidity, but in fact, it was hard to reply to this naive question in any other way than Prince André had done. If everyone made war only according to his own convictions, there would be no war, he said. That would be excellent, said Pierre. Prince André smiled. It might very well be excellent, but it will never happen. Well, what makes you go to war? Asked Pierre. What makes me? I don't know. I have to. Besides, I'm going. He paused. I'm going because this life I lead here, this life is not for me. Section 6. There was the rustle of a woman's dress in the next room. Prince André shook himself as if coming to his senses, and his face took on the same expression it had in Anna Pavlovna's drawing room. Pierre lowered his legs from the sofa. The princess came in. She had already changed to a house dress, but one just as elegant and fresh. Prince André stood up, politely moving an armchair for her. Why is it, I often wonder, she began, in French as always, hurriedly and fussily sitting down in the armchair. Why is it that Annette has never married? How stupid you all are, messieurs, not to have married her. Forgive me, but you understand nothing about women. You're such an argueur, Monsieur Pierre. I also keep arguing with your husband. I don't understand why he wants to go to war, said Pierre, without any constraint. So usual in the relations of a young man with a young woman, turning to the princess. The princess gave a flutter. Evidently Pierre's words had touched her to the quick. Ah, that's just what I say, she said. I don't understand. I decidedly do not understand why men can't live without war. Why is it that we women want none of it and have no need of it? Well, you be the judge. I keep telling him. Here he's his uncle's adjunct, a most brilliant position. He's so well known, so appreciated by everyone. The other day at the Apraxins, I heard a lady ask, C'est qu'à le fameux Prince André, ma preuve d'honneur. She laughed. He's so well received everywhere. He could easily become an imperial adjunct. You know, the sovereign spoke to him very graciously. Annette and I were saying that it could easily be arranged. What do you think? Pierre looked at Prince André, and noticing that his friend did not like this conversation, made no reply. When do you go? He asked. Ah, ne me parlez pas de ce départ. Ne m'inquiétez pas. Je ne veux pas en entendre parler. The princess said in the same capriciously playful tone in which she had spoken with Hippolyte in the drawing room, and which was so obviously unsuited to the family circle, where Pierre was like a member. Today, when I thought of how I'd have to break off all these dear relations, and then, you know, André, she winked meaningfully at her husband, je perds. She whispered, her back shuddering. Her husband looked at her as if he were surprised to notice that there was someone else in the room besides himself and Pierre. However, with cold politeness, he inquiringly addressed his wife. What are you afraid of, Liza? I cannot understand, he said. See what egoists all men are? All egoists. For the sake of his whims, God knows why, he abandons me. He locks me up in the country alone. With my father and sister, don't forget, said Prince Andrei quietly. Alone all the same, without my friends. And he wants me to be afraid. And he wants me not to be afraid. Her tone was querulous now. Her little lip rose, giving her face not a joyful, but an animalish, squirrel-like expression. She fell silent, as if finding it indecent to speak of her pregnancy in front of Pierre. Prince Andrei said slowly, not taking his eyes off his wife. The princess blushed and waved her hands desperately. Non, André, je dis que vous avez tellement changé. Your doctor tells you to go to bed earlier, said Prince Andrei. You should get some sleep. The princess said nothing, and her short lip with its little mustache suddenly trembled. Prince Andrei, getting up and shrugging his shoulders, began to pace the room. Pierre gazed wonderingly and naively through his spectacles, now at him, now at the princess, and stirred as if he also wanted to get up, but changed his mind again. What do I care if Monsieur Pierre is here? The little princess said suddenly, and her pretty face suddenly spread into a tearful grimace. I've long wanted to say to you, Andrei, why have you changed so much towards me? What have I done to you? You're going into the army, and you have no pity for me. Why is it? Lise, was all Prince Andrei said, but in this word there was an entreaty and a threat, and above all the conviction that she herself would regret her words, but she hurriedly went on. You treat me like a sick person or a child. I see it all. You weren't like this 6 months ago. Lise, I beg you to stop. Prince Andrei said, still more expressively. Pierre, who was becoming more and more agitated during this conversation, got up and went over to the princess. He seemed unable to bear the sight of tears and was about to start crying himself. Calm yourself, princess. It seems so to you because I assure you I myself have experienced. Why? Because, no, excuse me, an outsider is in the way here. No, calm yourself. Goodbye. Prince Andrei caught him by the arm. No, wait, Pierre. The princess is so good that she will not want to deprive me of the pleasure of spending an evening with you. No, he thinks only of himself, said the princess, not holding back her angry tears. Lise, Prince Andrei said dryly,